The 17 News at Sunrise podcast is brought to you by Clinica Sierra Vista.
Welcome back to the 17 News at Sunrise podcast, where we share your news on your schedule.
Working in the spirit of the Golden Empire, this is 17 News at Sunrise.
Good morning here at 5 a.m. and thanks for waking up with us. I'm Maddie Jansen alongside Alex Fisher. And we begin with a big step forward in a bill authored by Bakersfield State Senator Shannon Grove. The new law would classify child sex trafficking as a serious felony in the state. And just months after it was killed and then brought back to life, the Assembly unanimously passed SB 14. Some lawmakers cheered last night after all 80 members of the Assembly voted to approve the bill. The bill not only seeks to classify child sex trafficking as a serious felony in California, but would categorize it under the state's 3 strikes law for reoffenders. That could lead to increased jail time for convicted traffickers.
It's damn time we start doing something and we really mean it. I'm so sick and tired of sitting up and standing up here and watching you guys put the victim last. It's time we actually support them and our voices stand up for them.
The policy conversations that existed around this legislation are not over, are important, are necessary, and I would strongly encourage this body to think very, very carefully before we go down a pathway where the criminal legal system becomes the answer for poverty, exploitation, the failing of our children, and the failing of entire communities.
The bill passed after an amendment was added to address concerns that victims who may have been forced to cooperate with their traffickers could also end up prosecuted and behind bars. The legislation now goes to the Senate. If it passes there, it will make its way to the governor's desk.
This morning, we are still working out to figure out how 2 bodies ended up in a canal in southwest Bakersfield. The bodies were found yesterday morning. This is off Truxton Avenue, and you can see a police crime scene unit was on site. Officers say they originally received a report about 1 body in the canal, but when officers got there, they found 2. No word yet on their identities or how they got there. The investigation continues.
In your 17 Court Watch, the man who became known as the pillowcase rapist for committing a series of sexual assaults decades ago in Sacramento has been ordered to stand trial on a kidnapping charge in Bakersfield. A judge says there is sufficient evidence for the case against 71-year-old Ronald Feldmeyer to proceed. He's admitted to picking a woman up back in June, but denied holding her against her will, according to court documents. Feldmeyer became known as the pillowcase rapist in the 1980s for using the covering to stifle his victims' screams. Released from prison after 3 decades, he moved to Bakersfield. He's being held without bail right now and is due back in court later this month.
After months of negotiations, stakeholders in California's fast food industry have struck a tentative deal with labor unions and the governor's office that could lead to major changes within the state's fast food sector. Included in the agreement, a proposed minimum wage increase for many workers. Capitol correspondent Eitan Wallace gives us a closer look at this deal.
Major changes could soon be coming to California's fast food industry. Per a tentative deal struck between labor unions, fast food corporations, and stakeholders, Fast Food California workers employed at chains with more than 60 locations nationally will be eligible for $20 an hour minimum wage in the Golden State come April 2024, marking a nearly $5 increase from the current minimum wage.
It was really outstanding outcome.
Assemblymember Chris Holden of Pasadena took part in the negotiations. Talks between him, the governor's office, labor unions, and fast food corporations began after a bill he authored last year known as the FAST Act passed and was signed by the governor. It sought to create a council made up of fast food workers, restaurant corporate representatives, franchisees, and state officials, all to set industry standards on working conditions, hours, and the possibility for fast food minimum wage to increase to $22 an hour over time. But opponents, including franchisees and fast food corporations, quickly fought back, arguing the proposal would increase costs for businesses and customers alike and force franchisees out of the state. They formed the Save Local Restaurants Coalition to repeal the FAST Act via an official 2024 ballot measure. But now, amid the tentative deal just struck, they will forego that ballot measure under the agreement that the original FAST Act is repealed. The new $20 minimum wage will take its place.
All hands were on deck, and it came together in a way that I think was fair and balanced for all.
That, he says, includes workers. The Service Employees International Union, or SEIU, formally represented workers during the negotiations.
We are excited. It is an exciting, historic day, and we genuinely feel like this is a step towards ending poverty wage work in the state of California.
On the industry side, Matt Haller with the International Franchise Association, or IFA, also points out the deal eliminates a proposal to hold corporations and franchisees jointly liable for accusations of mistreatment and harassment. He says the deal is better than what many franchise owners saw as the alternative.
I think the message to those franchise owners and potential future franchise owners is you're still in control of your business. Yes, there may be some higher costs through the increase in wages, but it's also more predictable. And most importantly, you get to stay in control of your local business and make those decisions yourself. And for anybody that wants to go into the franchise model, you still have that opportunity because the franchise model has been preserved with this agreement.
And the tentative deal still needs approval from the legislature no later than Thursday. From there, it will need the governor's signature. Governor Newsom calling this tentative agreement a win-win for all sides. Reporting from the state capitol, Eitan Wallace, 17 News.
You make news around the state. A big decision will be made later today as the CSU Board of Trustees meets to discuss a tuition hike. The proposed plan would raise tuition by 6% annually. The union representing CSU's student assistants says their workers earn below minimum wage, which makes balancing school, work, and life almost impossible. Yesterday at the board meeting in Long Beach, they urged trustees to recognize their voice in fighting for fair pay, consistent hours, paid sick leave, and other basic employee benefits. Students at CSU Bakersfield say a tuition hike would also hurt them.
This tuition increase is really bad for a lot of students, including myself. 6% to the Board of Trustees may be small, but for a lot of students, it's going to cause a big burden on our way of living.
If the annual tuition hike passes, it would go into effect for the next academic year. And by 2027, students would be paying nearly $2,000 more than they are now.
From our Water Watchers file this morning, California's reservoirs are in a position they have not been in for quite a few years. They still hold a significant amount of water. Data shows all but 2 reservoirs in the state are at or above their historic average levels. The Department of Water Resources says California has not seen anything like this since 2019. Just a year ago, California's 2 largest reservoirs in Shasta and Oroville were at 34 and 36% of their total capacity. What was supposed to be a night of fun turned deadly in South Bakersfield. Police say a large house party ended in gunfire, leaving 1 teen dead and another in critical condition. This all happened shortly after midnight on Sunday on West Haven Avenue. Officers say they found 2 teen boys with gunshot wounds. A 17-year-old boy died at a local hospital. The other victim, a 16-year-old boy, is in critical condition.
17 people are under arrest this morning accused of stealing more than $7,000 worth of merchandise from the Valley Plaza Mall. BPD detectives say they have been working a sting operation over the past few weeks. And they say the operation focused on thefts from Macy's, JCPenney's, and other stores. 17 people from Bakersfield were taken into custody. Police say 178 stolen items were recovered.
An inmate in Tehachapi pleaded guilty to spearheading a COVID-19 relief fraud scheme for millions of dollars. Prosecutors say Telvin Bro and 3 others stole personal information from several people and used it to submit more than 400 fraudulent unemployment insurance claims. They were paid out more than $5 million, and prosecutors say they spent it on cars, furniture, handbags, and jewelry. Barreau is set to be sentenced in March.
The 17 News at Sunrise podcast is a production of KGET and Nexstar Media Group. For more on all of the headlines in today's show, head to kget.com.